contract buyout with the Blazers to become a free agent. Ayton is a 27-year-old center who was part of the Suns' finals run in 2021. You may have heard. Lakers are in the market for a center. David, is DeAndre Ayton the missing piece for LA?
No, he's not. They're not going to find a missing piece in free agency or these mid-level guys they get to, bolster their bench. DeAndre Ayton can help. The guys like the centers that they are looking for, they can help. The thing that's going to elevate the Lakers to a championship-level team is Luka Doncic being a top 3 to top 5 player in the league. Now, we saw the potential for what Luka Doncic could do with that team when he came in, but he was still hurt. He was still not in his best shape. They played their absolute best defensively for 3 months and then petered out. What they need is a full season, a full MVP-level Luka Doncic, because that's going to determine if they're a championship team or not. All of these guys in the margins are going to be great. He's going to have a lob threat. They can have people that can, where J.J. Redick's not playing the same 5 guys for a second half in the NBA playoff game. But what they need, and the only thing that's going to elevate them to championship level, is Luka Doncic starting in October, in shape, getting them off to the races as a real Western Conference contender.
Perk, DeAndre Ayton, the Lakers, make sense or no?
It does make sense, and I believe that is a Beyonce moment for us upgrading at the center position for what they had last year. But I will say this about DeAndre Ayton. The word around the league is not good about DeAndre Ayton. The Portland Trail Blazers were happy as hell that they got to this point with him. Right now, he's been labeled as a diva, as a cancer in the locker room. And if I'm DeAndre Ayton, I got to have a moment. I got to have someone speak the real to me, because we're talking about a former #1 pick that didn't work out with his team, that didn't work out with the Phoenix Suns, a team that drafted him #1. And now you get to the Portland Trail Blazers that were absolutely happy as hell to get him in the trade. They welcomed him with open arms. They thought he was going to be one of those guys for the future. And now you get to this point, right? And see, what happened is that when you have guys like DeAndre Ayton, you believe that things can happen to you. And I believe that he's one situation away. The next situation or next organization that he lands to, even if it's the Lakers, he has to change a lot about himself, or he will find his career being shortened and he will find himself out of the league. But can DeAndre Ayton help the Lakers? Absolutely, because Luka thrives in a lob threat. DeAndre Ayton can be a lob threat. When DeAndre Ayton is locked in, he's focused, he's losing himself in the team, he's a hell of a player, double-double. The problem is that hasn't been the case. He came off selfish, unreliable. It was so many stories that were put out there last season. He was backed up in traffic. Something happened where he couldn't get out of his driveway. I was like, man, come on, man. What are we talking about? And here we are to this point. And by the way, last but not least, he was playing for a former player. Chauncey Billups is respected in the NBA brotherhood by everyone. If you can't get along and play for Chauncey Billups, I don't know who in the hell else you could play for.
Perk is right, Wendy. DeAndre Ayton should go somewhere where it doesn't snow so he can get out of his driveway, because that was obviously an issue last year. But within the Rich Paul statement, there was a part of this that LeBron said on the Mind the Game podcast, his podcast with Steve Nash, that the ring chasing is not something that he embraces. Yet he wants to still win a championship. Now I'm sure he wants to bring in guys that can help him win a championship. Is DeAndre Ayton one of them?
He can help. I mean, I think if you look at the Ayton story and the Lakers story are two separate stories. The Blazers traded for DeAndre Ayton 2 years ago. They watched him play for a season, and in the 2 following drafts, they drafted centers. Actions over words, okay? I mean, and so Donovan Clingan is now their franchise center, and they drafted Yang Hansen, who's the first Chinese player to be drafted in 18 years, is actually 7'1". He's actually one of the more fascinating players to watch out of this draft. They're very, and he has a $35 million contract, and the Blazers in June decided that there was no way they could trade it. So they ended up buying him out. So that said, you realize the Lakers did not have I don't want to insult DeAndre Ayton. I think he's a very good guy. I like him a lot personally. I don't want to insult Jackson Hayes. But Jackson Hayes is not a starting center in the NBA. And at the end of last season, the Lakers were basically playing LeBron and Dorian Finney-Smith, two forwards, as centers instead of playing Jackson Hayes. So if you have no starting center and you have a guy who averaged 14 and 10 last year, I mean, he will play minutes, he will get rebounds, and he will help you out. I don't think he's demonstrated he can be a championship center to this point in his career. But if you're going from no center, where you're literally going to play with just forwards out there, and Rui Hachimura as well playing center, to that, yeah, that helps, but I don't think he's going to be the number one option. What ended up happening yesterday, the Lakers had Dorian Finney-Smith opt out of his contract. They've been negotiating with Dorian Finney-Smith for weeks. They did not come to terms with the contract, and now I think there's a very good chance Dorian Finney-Smith's going to be leaving the Lakers. Okay? And so that means they have $14 million that they can spend in one bite on a center. And there's some options out there beyond DeAndre Ayton. Brook Lopez is one, for example, that they can. But I predict by first take tomorrow, the Lakers will have a center. And by first take on Friday, I think the Lakers might have multiple centers.
Perk, just back to you on one thing on this. When we're looking through the prism of the Lakers getting a center, as Brian just mentioned, maybe one, or definitely one, maybe two. Are we looking at it through the prism of who plays the best with Luka or who plays the best with the Lakers? Because those are two different things, obviously.
Well, you're looking through the lens of who plays best with Luka. And to be honest with you, I understand. I'm not taking anything away from Brook Lopez, but I don't believe he's the fit. Luka thrives well with an athletic big. A big that's going to be a lob threat at the basket, a big that's going to clean the glass up like a fresh bottle of Windex. That's not who Brook Lopez is. Brook Lopez is a guy that stretches the floor and shoots a ton of threes. You need a dynamic roller so that when Luka's coming off that pick and roll, he's probing, he's either getting downhill to his floater, to the lob, or the dynamic roller is sucking in the defense where he's making those skip passes to the corner or wing for wide open threes. So do I think Brook Lopez is the answer? No. But I just wonder what is out there on the market for the Lakers. I believe that if you could get and engage DeAndre Ayton, he is a better fit for Luka than a Brook Lopez.
Well, I mean, Wendy said by tomorrow we might know probably will know who the Lakers center is. And I also guarantee you that by tomorrow we will not be saying that the Lakers are now championship contenders based on who that center is. That cupboard is just too bare for that decision. Like we're not going to be here saying that they have found the missing piece. The missing piece is not anywhere around in the league right now. The missing piece is in their locker room, just being a better team with what you have.
Well, but everything you're saying, I'm going to keep coming back, David, to the Rich Paul statement. That LeBron wants to compete for a championship this year. Is there a missing piece, whether it's in their locker room or outside of their locker room, to get them to compete for a championship this year?
Luka Doncic. Like, that's what it is. It's just Luka Doncic being the best player. That's why you drafted him. You drafted him to be a better version of the guy you got. Now, it was magical for long stretches. The defense played above their scale, out of their mind for about a month and a half in that during the last stretch of that season. But you need to look in that locker room and say, Luka Doncic is the best player. J.J. Redick needs to be a little bit of a better coach, and they need to figure out how to get their defense to be sustainable for an entire season, not just February to April, and make sure that they can, be competitors in the West. Right now, we can go all through the trade machines. We can go all through every single one of these free agents. We're not going to say they found the missing link. They found something special. It's already there because that's why you made that move in February.
Well, and that to me is an amazing thought.
Yeah, but
go ahead. Go on.
I just want to point out, the Lakers finished third in the West last year. And I know the difference between 3 and 7 wasn't that great. They were the number 3 seed in the West last year. And in the playoffs, J.J. Redick only trusted 5 players. I know this because he only played 5 players in the second half of a vital playoff game. So if they can add 2 or 3 players, which they can do, they have free agent money, they have expiring contracts to trade, they have some draft capital. If they can add 2 or 3 players and have a better and healthier Luka Doncic with LeBron James coming back, this team can contend in the West. Am I favoring them over Oklahoma City? I am not. But this team is not coming from nothing. They have a lot going for them.
It's Native 24-hour moisturizing body wash that locks in 7